Welcome back to the online sessions of the practical videos. In this practical session, we are going to discuss about the next operation which is going to be performed on the lathe. So what is the aim? To perform the knurling operation on the lathe machine. Knurling operation, what do you mean by the knurling operation? Knurling operation, that means it is going to convert a certain design which we are going to do on a workpiece for its proper gripping. For that purpose, whatever the design which we are going to produce on the workpiece, that is known as a knurling operation. Which are the apparatus which we require? The first apparatus which we require, that is the lathe machine which we are going or which we are performing on it. This is the lathe machine on which we are going to perform our experiment. Second one, that is our knurling tool. So over here you can see this is our knurling tool. There is a two rollers which is there, and these two rollers, between that a workpiece is kept. So these rollers, they will produce a certain type of the impression, that means a design is done onto the workpiece. And oil we are going to use as a lubricant. We always require a oil as a lubricant, otherwise what will happen? The workpiece is going to get too much heated up, and as a result there are chances of getting a bad surface onto the workpiece. So oil is required as a lubricant. Material which we are going to use, that is the workpiece on which we want a particular design to be inserted. So that is the material which is the workpiece which we require. Now comes the how we are going to do, or let us see the principle. So the principle of the particular lathe machine which we are going to see. How the lathe machine works. The lathe machine in which the headstock is there, in that portion there is a chuck in which we are holding our workpiece, and that workpiece is allowed to rotate at a very high speed. So our workpiece is kept inside the headstock and it is moved at a very high speed. Then comes the cutting tool. We are placing the cutting tool in any of the tailstock or the carriage of the lathe machine, and then we are going to perform it. Move that particular tool. How this tool is moved? Tool is moved towards the workpiece in any of the direction, parallel, perpendicular, cross, any of the operation we can move towards the workpiece. Then what will happen? Whenever your tool and workpiece is going to touch with each other, and as a result of which the chips are removed, and you will get the proper desired size and shape of the workpiece. So this is the basic principle of any of the lathe machine, and over here you can see workpiece rotated and your tool is given any of the feed, parallel, perpendicular or the cross feed which we are going to feed inside of the material. So now let us see what is the basic theory behind this knurling operation. Knurling, it is a process of, you can see over here, impressing a diamond shaped, or you can say the straight, impressing a diamond shape or a straight line pattern into the surface of the workpiece. So here particularly where a hardened wheel are there, that wheel is going to place, or that wheel is going to impress that particular design onto the workpiece. A knurling tool is mounted. Where we are placing this knurling tool? Knurling tool is placed at the carriage in the tool post, and then it is kept between the workpiece. The rollers are kept in such a way that wherever we require that impression, on that impression we will be getting it. The tool is then fed parallel. It is moved in the parallel direction of the workpiece, and the area on which we require this knurling, that is going to be done. So over here you can see this is our knurling tool. You can see over here the two rollers and this type of the diamond pattern which we are going to do onto the particular sample. Now what is the procedure? Why? To emboss a diamond shaped pattern on the workpiece. Which tool? Knurling tool we are requiring. Primary motion, that is given by the rotary motion of the workpiece. Which feed we require? We require a longitudinal feed which we are giving to the tool, and this is how you can say this is the shape which is there on the workpiece by the knurling, and this is the knurling tool. on which this is the rotor of the knurling tool and the knurling operation is taking place. Why we require this thing? We require this thing for the proper gripping. Whatever the workpiece which we are taking, that workpiece, if it is going to be held in certain gripping position, for that proper grip we are doing the knurling operation on the lathe. Clear? So now let us see the practical, how this practically we can perform this knurling operation on the lathe. Now next operation which we are going to perform on the lathe, that is known as a knurling operation. Now the first thing comes in mind, what do you mean by the knurling? Knurling operation basically is nothing but to create a pattern onto the specimen. Or you can say we are doing a pattern on the specimen. Why? Because for getting a proper grip we are using this particular operation. So whenever you want to place the material, you want to hold that material firmly, for that particular reason we are going for the knurling operation. The simple knurling, you can see over here, this pattern which is created onto this thing, tool post. This pattern is nothing but the knurling operation, so that you can catch this particular, you can grip it properly. So for any of the gripping purpose, we always have to go for the knurling operation onto the specimen. So here there is a different type of the knurling tool. This is the knurling tool which is there. Over here there are two rollers are there, and between the two rollers the surface is kept. And as a result of which the knurling operation is taking place. Your workpiece is rotated in this particular headstock. The workpiece is rotated in a headstock, and with the help of this thing you can go for the knurling operation. One thing which is always required, that is your oil. Oiling is always required for this particular thing, that is lubricant. Any lubricant you can use for doing this. Why? Because there is lots of friction which is generated, and as a result you can harm your tool. So for the safety of the tool we have to use a particular lubricant which will reduce the heat and will do our job easily. So now let us see how the knurling operation is carried out. As we have discussed, this is the knurling operation which we have performed. Knurling operations, as you can see over here, there is a pattern which is created onto the material. You can see over here the pattern which is generated with the help of this knurling tool. And in this way we can go for the knurling operations. So In this operation, we are requiring basically oil is always required to reduce the friction, as I have told you earlier. So, and with the help of this knurling tool and your workpiece, we are going to go for the knurling operation.